The Kremlin has clearly said there is no chance for peace talks with Ukraine. It has also said any additional aid from the US would be seen as an aggravation of the conflict. At the same time, Ukraine does not seem to want to negotiate with Putin. So the question is, how long is this war likely to really go on for? It is, after all, a very expensive war for the entire world, as we've seen with spiraling energy prices and the soaring cost of living everywhere.
Well, I think unfortunately, it is a situation that could theoretically go on for years. If both sides are so far apart in terms of what they want their objectives to be, then it's very difficult to see how this could be resolved through anything other than sort of military conquest. And I think, even though there are obviously major pressures on the Western side in terms of providing financial and defensive and civilian assistance to Ukraine due to domestic economic issues in the West resulting from both the war and from COVID, I do think there will be sustained support for Ukraine. And I think you'll also see continued improvements in the kind of weapons that the West will provide to Ukraine, because ultimately, the West knows that any kind of military defeat in Ukraine would be considered such a sort of catastrophic blow to the morale of Western democracies. Because, as far as the West is concerned, this is a military invasion, it's a war of aggression, and it's completely unjustified. And so really, the West is unwilling to try to envisage a situation where, Ukraine would not be able to defend itself in this situation. On the Russian side, we have, quite a difficult and a different situation where Putin has very much sort of stoked his political survival on the success of this war. And even this afternoon, when he was addressing military leaders, insisted that Russia would reach its strategic objectives in Ukraine. And so, it's very difficult to see the way that, Putin can actually climb down from this. Commentators often talk about providing Russia with a way out of the situation that can provide Putin with some kind of victory that he could present to the Russian people. But, his objectives are so contrary to anything that both the West and Ukraine could accept. It's very difficult to see how this would happen. So I think it's perfectly possible that, say, it could go on for years. But I think, one possibility is there may be some kind of domestic political change in Russia. But I think, we're certainly quite a way away from that, because we've seen still quite a lot of support for Putin from both the public and from the military.